This is Mr. Sandell. We're coming back with a homework video. This is not for Algebra 1, this is for Math 1. And today's date is the 15th of September 2025. And just remember that PEMDAS is originally written like that, but the better way of writing PEMDAS is please excuse, wow, my pencil did not work for that one. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, meaning that multiplication and division happened at the same time, left to right, and addition and subtraction happened at the same time, again from the left to the right. So the first thing that I'm seeing is, I have parentheses, therefore I'm doing parentheses first. I'm going to simplify. -4 plus 3, you take the sign of the larger and you get -1. Why did you subtract? Because you had opposite signs. One was a minus, one was a plus, so you subtract, always taking the sign of the larger. The next thing that I'm going to see is another parentheses. Again, 2 minus 3 is going to be combined. I take the sign of the larger, which is going to be a negative, and because these are opposite signs, one of them is a positive 2, one of them is a -3, I'm going to subtract. So subtracting 3 minus 2 is 1, taking the sign of the larger is negative. And finally, I'm going to rewrite the division symbol in between. A negative divided by a negative is a positive, and 1 divided by 1 is 1. So it is a positive 1, and then I check my answers. For number 1, is the answer 1? I got it correct. Moving on to number 2. In number 2, again, I solve everything inside the parentheses, and I'm noticing that there's a bunch of things to do inside the parentheses for number 2. The first thing I'm going to do is left to right. I'm moving with addition and then subtraction, not because addition and then subtraction, but because I'm moving from the left to the right. 1 plus 9 is going to be 10, and then 10 minus 6 is going to be 4. I was just double checking. And then over here on the right hand side, I see I have a double negative. Whenever you have a double negative, you're going to turn that into a positive. It's really 5 plus 3, or rather a -5 plus 3. I've noticed one of them is a plus, one of them is a minus. Whenever we have a mixture of a minus and a plus, we subtract. 5 minus 3 is 2. And I take the sign larger. 5 is larger. Its sign is negative. I take that negative sign. So now I have this 4 divided by -2. And whenever I have a positive divided by negative, the answer is a negative, and 4 divided by 2 is a 2. Final answer is -2. We check our work, number 2. The answer is indeed a -2. Moving on to number 3. Again, inside the parentheses, 18 divided by 6 is going to be a 3. I'm starting inside the parentheses. I started with division because division happens before subtraction. And then inside the parentheses over here, I need to simplify this one as well. Ooh, I see a double negative. Double negative means I really have a plus sign and a plus sign. And I have a -1 plus 6. Notice one of them is a negative, one of them is a positive. Opposite signs mean we subtract. 6 minus 1 is 5. And I take the sign of the larger. The larger is 6. Its sign in front is a positive. Therefore, this one is also a positive. I simplified everything inside this parentheses. This parentheses still needs some work because I still have a -1 inside the parentheses. 3 minus 1 is just 2. Again, you have a positive sign and a negative sign. You always subtract when you have different signs. And there's 3 minus 2 is, or 3 minus 1 is 2. I take the sign of the larger. 3 was the larger. Therefore, this answer is a positive. Now I can rewrite everything. I have a 2 times a 5 times a -3. Everything is being multiplied. I just move from the left to the right. 2 times 5 is going to be 10, and then 10 times -3 is going to be a -30. Final answer is -30. Did we get it right? In number 3, we got a -30. Let's move on to a number 4. In number 4, again, I have parentheses. I'm going to start with the easy one this time. I'm going to start with my dessert. 3 plus 1 is just 4. And my pencil decided not to work. There we go. And then from there, I'm going to move to the next set of parentheses. I see a plus and a minus. Whenever you have a mixture of a plus and a minus, you can just rewrite that as one single minus sign. And you move from the left to the right. There's no difference between subtraction or addition. They're both subtraction in this case. 18 minus 1 from the left to the right is going to be 17. And then 17 minus 1 is going to be 16. So now I can rewrite my equation. I have 2 minus 16 divided by 4 minus 3. From here, I see that division happens next in terms of my rungs of PEMDAS. Again, just zooming out, I see multiplication and division happen before my addition and subtraction. So that's why I'm doing 16 divided by 4 first. 16 divided by 4 is 4. And then I can rewrite 2 minus that 4 minus 3. Notice everything is subtraction here, so I'm just going to move from left to the right. 2 minus 4 is a -2. Again, why? Because I have a positive 2 and a -4. Different signs mean we subtract. 4 minus 2 is 2. I took the sign of the larger. This is a -2 because the 4 was larger and its sign in front was a negative. And then from there, I have the equation -2 minus 3. Notice in this case, I have 2 of the same signs. Therefore, I'm going to add them together, 5. And I take the sign of the larger again, which is a negative. And I get my final answer as a -5 for number 4. Number 4 is a -5. I'm constantly checking my work like you will do as well. In number 5, I basically do this problem at the very end. Everything inside of here is inside the parentheses. So let's just go ahead and focus on division first. Division happens before subtraction, before addition, and at the same time as this other division. So negative 5 divided by 5 is going to be a negative 1. A negative divided by a positive is a negative. Let's rewrite the rest of this problem. I have a 1 minus that. I have a minus, a 6, plus 3. Notice that I have a double negative here. It's okay to work on that now. Double negative is going to turn into a positive, so this is really 3 plus 4. And this is going to be divided by a negative 1. In fact, I can do that at the same time right now. I can say that a positive 4 divided by a negative 1, a positive divided by a negative is a negative. So let me come back here and switch this out to a negative. And then I have 4 divided by 1 is just 4. So it's going to be a 4 right here. Notice I've gotten rid of all of my addition, or all of my multiplication, all of my division. I only have addition and subtraction left over. I'm going to work inside the parentheses first, moving from the left to the right. The first thing that I see is a negative 1 and a negative 6. And notice that the signs are the same. If the signs are the same, you're going to add them together. Always take the sign of the larger, which is, in this case, a negative. It's kind of, you don't really have to do it that way, but a negative 6 is larger, and that negative is brought down here. And from there, I'm going to do a negative 7 plus 3. Notice one of them is a minus, one of them is a plus. They're opposite signs, therefore you subtract, and you get a 4. From there, I take the sign of larger. Which one is larger between 7 and 3? Well, 7 is larger. You take its sign, which is a negative. And then finally, I have to do this negative 4 and this minus 4. Notice both of these have the same sign, therefore you add them, take the sign of larger. They're the same size, so you just take either one of them, you get a minus. Now I have everything inside the parentheses is a negative 8, and I have this 1 minus out in front. So let me rewrite that. I have a 1 minus the negative 8. There's the 1, there's the minus, there's the 1, there's the minus, and this negative 8 came from inside the parentheses. Notice I have a double negative. Again, whenever you have a double negative, that's really adding. That's really 1 plus 8, and 1 plus 8 is 9 for my final answer. Let's check our work. Number 5, is the answer 9? It is indeed a positive 9. Moving on to a number 6. Notice I'm going to start with everything inside the parentheses. 11 and 6, they're opposite signs. One's a minus, one's a plus. Therefore, you subtract them. 11 minus 6 is 5. And then you take the sign of larger, making this a negative. 2 minus 3 is a negative 1. Again, it's the same thing over and over. One of them is a plus, one of them is a minus. Whenever you have opposite signs, you subtract. 3 minus 2 is 1. You take the sign of the larger. The larger number is 3. Its sign is negative. Therefore, our answer is a negative. I'm going to stop explaining that over and over again. If you don't know how to add and subtract negative numbers, we need to work on that on Gimpit or on Bluekit. 2 plus 1 is 3. Let's add that up as well and rewrite our problem. We have a negative 5 divided by a negative 1 plus a 3 divided by 3. From here, we're still following PEMDAS. Division happens first, so I can say 5 divided by a negative 1 is a positive 5 because a negative divided by a negative is a positive. 3 divided by 3 is just a 1. Therefore, my new equation is 5 plus 1. 5 plus 1 is 6 for my final answer, which I will then check. Is number 6 the answer 6? Number 6, the answer is indeed 6. Moving on to number 7. In number 7, we have finally an exponent. Remember, we start with parentheses, so I'm focusing here first. And then inside the parentheses, exponent is the first thing that I want to do. This is saying negative 4 squared. Remember that negative 4 quantity squared is the same thing as saying negative 4 times negative 4. Remember that a negative times a negative is a positive, so our answer here is going to be positive something. 4 times 4 is 16, so the answer is going to be positive 16. I can rewrite the rest of this problem. I have a negative 1, a minus 3, I'm noticing that there are 2 signs here. Remember that 2 signs, a plus and a minus, turns into just a minus. I have a 4 with a minus in front of it, a 6 with a minus in front of it. All of that's in the parentheses. I have a division and a negative 10. From here, I am still looking inside the parentheses. Everything in here is adding or subtracting, which means I just move from the left to the right. Negative 6 and negative 4 have the same sign, therefore they add and get a negative 10. Negative 10 and negative 3 add to negative 13. Negative 13 and negative 1 add to negative 14. And negative 14 and 16 add to a 2. Which means my new equation, or my new expression rather, is negative 10 divided by 2. And negative 10 divided by 2, and negative divided by positive is a negative, therefore the answer is a negative, and 10 divided by 2 is a 5, so the answer is a negative 5. Let's check the back, number 7, negative 5, and we're on to our last problem from PEMDAS. Again, I see inside the parentheses. I'm really going to start right here. Everything is adding and subtracting, therefore I can just move from left to right. 2 minus 2 is 0, and 0 plus 5 is 5. And I can also do 6 times 2 at the same time. 6 times 2 is 12, and then I can say it's 12 divided by, in parentheses, negative 1. Ooh, I see a double negative. Whenever you have a double negative, that's really adding. So it's going to be plus 3 minus whatever answer I get right here, and that answer was 5, so I'm just going to write the 5 right now. Remember, we're still starting inside the parentheses, therefore I'm going to add my negative 1 and 3 first, and that's going to be a 2. 2 minus 5 is a negative 3. So I really have 12 divided by negative 3. 12 divided by negative 3 means I'm doing a positive divided by a negative, which is a negative, and 12 divided by 3 is 4. So my final answer is a negative 4. Let's see if we got the right answer. It is indeed a negative 4. It doesn't happen very often, but I did 100% and I didn't make any mistakes, I think. That does conclude the homework. I know I talk fast, but hopefully you can play this at half speed if you need it, or times 2 speed if you're crazy. Bye.